If you think you know what the Tao is, you're probably wrong. Let's find out why in Tao Te Ching chapter 14. Look at it. It cannot be seen. So we call it invisible. Listen to it. It cannot be heard. So we call it silent. Grasp it. It cannot be held. So we call it elusive. These three we cannot separate, so they unite into one. Its top is not bright. Its underside is not dark. It's endless beyond description. Its origin is non-existence. It is called the shapeless shape, the form without substance. It is truly mysterious. Greet it, and you do not see its front. Follow it, you do not see its end. Follow the Tao of the ancients to master the present. To understand the beginning of time, that is the discipline of the Tao. So, hello, back here on the channel, my friends. Today we're going to look at Tao Te Ching chapter 14, and this one is, again, a very interesting one, because it is describing, or maybe better, not describing what the Tao is. And by understanding what the Tao not is, we might get an idea of what the Tao is, which in the end is the discipline of following the Tao itself. So let's start with line 1. Look at it, it cannot be seen, so we call it invisible. Well, nothing to explain here, right? So we cannot see the Tao. Listen to it, it cannot be heard, so we call it silent. Self-explaining, right? We cannot hear it as well. Grasp it, it cannot be held, so we call it elusive. It is, the Tao is that which cannot be grasped, okay? These three we cannot separate, so they unite into one, okay? So we have three qualities of the Tao, which we all cannot get our hands on. So that means we have this one thing which is not touchable, not seeable, not hearable. Okay, so that is one. So we have this notion, which is similar to all monotheistic traditions, that in the end it's all one. The Tao is one. Okay, whatever it is one. Okay. Its top is not bright. Okay, this is an interesting thing because it's everything else on planet Earth. If it's at the top, the sun is shining onto that, so it's bright. Okay, next line. But the Tao is not. Okay, so the Tao is not reacting to light shining upon it. Next line. Its underside is not dark. Okay, everything else throws a shadow. Okay, under everything else, it is dark. Not under the Tao. Okay. Those rules of existence, those physical rules of light and shadow, does not apply to the Tao. Okay. So it's endless beyond description. And the word I translated as endless here is formed of two characters, two of the same characters, which mean a rope. So the characters are rope, which means continuing, ongoing, never-ending streaming. Okay, so we have this rope, which is so endless, then there are no descriptions for that, because we as human beings, we cannot watch far enough to understand where that's going. Okay, it's endless beyond description, and its origin is non-existence. Okay, so we cannot see where it ends because it's going so far away. And when we look in the other direction, where did it start? We also cannot see it because it's non-existence, which is, of course, that, of course, from a logical perspective, that even cannot be true because, nothing can follow out of nothing, at least in the physical realm, in the physical idea. Okay, so nothing can come out of nothing, but here is stated that, that's the origin of the Tao. So it's also not describable, so far away, unimaginable to the human mind. So these two lines, they talk about, are we as human beings even able to understand what the Tao is? And the answer is no. Okay? No, we're not. Okay? We cannot understand where it started, and we cannot understand where it ends. Okay? So it goes on. It is called the shapeless shape, the form without substance. This one is also very interesting because this is saying that even the regulations of yin-yang, which can be applied to everything between heaven and earth, even heaven and earth themselves are a manifestation of yin and yang, as we know. So here it's stated that even though it is a shape, it is a form, which is a characteristic of yin, because yin is the form and yang is the non-form. Here it is stated that it is the shapeless shape. So it is yin without yin. And it is form without substance. So here it is said that the Tao even escapes the rules of yin and yang. Okay. So it is form without substance. It's the shapeless shape. It is truly mysterious. That's the next line. Well, yeah, it is, definitely. Greet it, and you do not see its front. Follow it, and you do not see its end. Okay, this is another recognition of the formlessness, right? And it's also interesting because in every tradition, every religion, and so on, there is a form of communicating with that which cannot be named. In Christianity, we have prayer. In Buddhism, we have meditation. In old shamanic cultures, Indian cultures, we have sacrifices. We have meditations. Old Indian tribes had dances. Everything to communicate with that which cannot be named, with their gods, with their ideas of God. So you can greet it, you can get into communication, but you will not see its front. Okay? You will not see, it's not like God's face will appear before you and say, do this and do that, and then I grant you rain. That's not how it works. So you can greet it, but you will not see its front. Okay? God can communicate, of course, but it is not done in a way that is, from a Western perspective, scientifically provable, which is kind of the joke and which is kind of the message of this whole chapter. I'll get into that later. Let's finish first. So it's truly mysterious. Greet it, you do not see its front. Follow it, you do not see its end. And now comes the second part, which is rather short in this verse, which is always about what do we do now we have this knowledge. Okay, so the first part is very often in the Tao Te Ching, how is the world? And the second part is, what do we do with it? Okay, so follow the Tao of the ancients to master the present. To understand the beginning of time, that is the discipline of the Tao. Okay, let's talk about this in two parts. Follow the Tao of the ancients to master the present. So, you have to know that in Chinese culture, for a very, very long time, for thousands of years, it was quite the opposite as it was in, or as it is now in Western cultures. They did not look into the future to wait for things to become better, for better science, for better medicine, and so on. They did not think like that. They thought that the ancients, the people who lived in the past, they were closer to the Tao and they knew how the world really works. And so they had a tradition, and in medicine it's still that way. I know that as a clinician in the Chinese medicine tradition, that when we want to understand something, we look in the classics. We go back to Zhang Zhongjing from the Han Dynasty, about 200 years after Jesus's birth. We look at those texts to find answers, because the doctors at those times, they had a very, very good idea of how the body energetics really worked. And so the idea is, there were people before us who really understood how the world works. And so we look at them, and the worshipping, today the worshipping goes into the future. Like, let's see what robots can do for us in the future, or let's see what medicine can do when we have the next big machine to examine patients or so. In Chinese tradition, it was the other way around. They looked back at the sages and looked for answers. So when it is said here that follow the Tao of the ancients to master the present, it is meant that the people who went before the ancients, and this text has been written about 200 years before Jesus' birth. So when they talk about the ancients, it's way back in time, okay? It's about 3,000, maybe 4,000 years. And they thought they understood the Tao. And this also reminds me of something out of the Chinese medicine tradition. There's one important work, which is the Huangdi Neijing. That's the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Medicine, which is still used in Chinese universities to teach Chinese medicine. And in the first chapter, it is stated there that the ancient people before them, and that work was written also around Jesus' birth 2,000 years ago, that those people were able to live more than 100 years. So that's the same idea. The ancient knew how it was done. Okay. So follow the Tao of the ancients to master the present. So the message is, understand what they understood. Do what they did. Align with the Tao. And what that exactly means is apply what's written in this chapter. Don't look for it. Don't listen to it. Don't try to grasp it. And that is so interesting, because it's just the opposite of the modern scientific thought. It's the opposite of the modern scientific method, which is to examine, to measure, to separate into very, very tiny pieces and then look at it under a microscope, and then you think you got the truth. That is the modern idea. Just look close enough and then you find what is important. And this is just the opposite. It is telling us you cannot see it anyway, you cannot hear it anyway, you cannot grasp it anyway. It is elusive. Okay? It throws no shadow, no light can be shined on it. It's form without substance. So it tells us there is nothing we can do. There's nothing we can think. There's nothing in our power that we can do to understand what the Tao is. And this is so amazingly beautiful, because it means that in order to truly understand what the Tao is, you have to let go. You have to experience. You have to be in the moment without wanting to see, without listening, without grasping, without doing a thing. And there we have again this concept of Wu Wei. Do not act, but be. Be in the moment. And that's when you are in touch with a true Tao, that which cannot be named, that which cannot be explained. It's the opposite of modern science. It's the opposite of knowing by force, if you will. Because the moment you apply force, it's gone. The moment you try to put it in a box, it's gone. It's not it anymore. The moment you try to name it, it's not it anymore. So follow the Tao of the ancients to master the present. Understand the underlying principle of reality, which is the Tao, which cannot be seen directly, but which can be felt, which can be experienced. And by that, which can nourish us, really, on a deep level. It's the connection to the holy realm by not trying hard, by doing the opposite. Okay, that's the idea. And yeah, let's head on to the next sentence. To understand the beginning of time, that's the discipline of the Tao. And this sentence also basically is telling us the same. Understand the beginning of time. Okay, how do I do that? Every new moment is a beginning of time. It's actually the only time we have. Now again, now again, now a new moment, now a new moment. We cannot go back anyway. I cannot go back to 3 seconds earlier. No chance. Even though I'm just making a video about this. There's no chance I can go back there. So, understand the beginning of time. Be there when time begins. Be in the moment. And that is the discipline of the Tao. That is what a true adept should do. That's what the sages do. They are not in the future, not in the past. They are right in the moment. That is the philosophy of Zen as well. Zen Buddhism. Be right in the moment. Take part in the moment. That's where you belong. And what's also very interesting in understanding this, I'm currently writing my new book on the Genesis story, on the first 3 chapters, mainly the paradise story of the Bible. There are beautiful pictures in there that help us understand. And this principle of returning, in a way, to the state where we are not questioning everything, where we are not constantly trying to forcefully get our hands on truth. That also is resembled in this picture of Adam and Eve in paradise before they listened to the snake. And the snake is described as the most witty animal, the most intelligent animal. Okay, so we have the same idea, like intelligence trying to forcefully control the world, trying to judge the world which the snake is telling Eve to do by eating the apple and become like God herself, that's the same idea. When you do that, you separate yourself from paradise. You separate yourself from the moment. You separate yourself from the Tao, if you will, in the Taoist sense. So we don't want to do that, okay? We do not want to listen to the snake. We want to stay in paradise or return to paradise, which is the story of my book, actually, which is the topic of my book. How can we return to paradise? And this is another hint in this chapter, okay? So we want to follow the Tao of the ancients, be in the present moment, understand the beginning of time, and by that, take part in this wonderful reality we share. So that's it for chapter 14. It was a long one this time. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you join me again for more chapters. Please feel free to subscribe and like if you liked. And yeah, you can watch more videos here. I make a video for every chapter of the Tao Te Ching. And I would enjoy it if you return. See you again.